Okay, what's going on? My name's Taylor Armstrong. We're here live with my good friend Marshall Tuten. Thanks for coming on the podcast with us today.
Of course, Taylor, you're the man.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited because this has been a long time coming. I've known Marshall for probably a couple years now.
Yeah.
Been someone that I've just always respected. Has been doing incredible things in solar and growing teams. He's now vice president over at Better Earth, one of the vice presidents over there. We've been in Knockstar together and just seen you do some incredible things, man. So, yeah, I'm excited for today. It's going to be good.
I'm hyped to be here too, man, and I really respect the podcast. Your podcast was the first I'd ever listened to having to deal with solar. Because I was stranded up in the mountains going to Tahoe,
Okay.
and it was 3 hours just up this like snowy hill, and I listened to your, I think it was all the episodes at that point. That was in 2019. So,
Wow,
yeah.
okay. All right, maybe that's the way to get people to listen. You just strand them somehow. They
It
got
was
no
good
choice.
though. We chose to listen to your podcast. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's awesome, and definitely appreciate that. It's cool to hear that's, that's one of the reasons that kept the show going, is because when I hear guys, like, in my opinion, that are way better than myself, that know all these things, that actually have gotten value and listen to my podcast, I'm like, okay, if even some of these guys like Marshall listen to it, then it must be like, all right.
It's got to be okay.
So that's cool. And so, yeah, I want to hear just your story, kind of how you got into solar, Marshall, and then I know you're vice president now. So, yeah, let's just start, and, we don't spend all day on it. I know we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but, yeah, do you want to give us kind of the Reader's Digest, how you got into solar, and your experience with Better Earth and all that?
Happy to. So I've worked for several other solar companies besides Better Earth, but it was in 2019 I graduated from Slippery Rock University. I come from Pennsylvania, a small little town.
Okay.
And like a lot of people who come into this industry, I came from a space where kind of, not to talk down about anybody, but it's a lot of small thinking. Like, hey, I'm gonna get this little job, I'm gonna get a little house in this area, I'm gonna drink coffee on the back of my porch for 40 years and work my job and do my thing, and that's okay. For me, I just wanted to do different things, and so I was graduating college, applying to a ton of different jobs, direct sales jobs, banking, internships, all kinds of things. And I got an ad in class on Instagram, and it just said, looking for 6-figure sales reps in California, swipe up. And I got that ad because I had done a sales job selling magazine subscriptions in college for a whole year before I started getting targeted with like Grant Cardone stuff, sales stuff. I found Zane's stuff, Zane Jan, who's our CEO, and I just got targeted with these ads. And right after I graduated, the day after I graduated in 2019, I moved out to California, got a small room in a house roomed with a few 50-year-olds in Concord, California. And then I just commuted to our office there every day. I worked for that company. I worked for a few others until I found Better Earth, like end of 2019, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty crazy, man. Were you like nervous coming clear across the country, kind of like unknown? And
Well, for me, what it was, and I talk to people who we recruited who come to work with us all the time about this. I recognize, listen, I don't have kids, I don't have a mortgage, I don't have big financial responsibilities. If there's a time to take a risk, now's the time.
Yeah.
And so it was not an easy decision. It took me 3-4 weeks because I had all these other opportunities. And then I was like, I'm gonna go knock doors in California, like what?
Yeah.
But then it was who I was talking to. I was talking to Dean Sharabi, Sean Sharabi, who were my team leads at the time.
Yeah.
Now they're executives at Better Earth, but they were just so honest with me about what it was gonna entail, that it was gonna be difficult, but that they thought I could do it.
Yeah.
And here I am. So I took that leap, and then timing has been really good. The people I've been involved with have been awesome.
Yeah.
And I would like to say in some ways I've gotten lucky, but I've also had plenty of crossroads where I could have done different things, and so I'm thankful that I've ended up here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's great that, like, especially now you're so well set up. Marshall's engaged, which congrats, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited. She's lovely.
Yeah, it's awesome. But what's cool is now you're like, in such a good position. You've built all this momentum. You're running teams. You're VP now. And like, how many guys starts I'm kind of one of them. Like, I wish I would have built more momentum when I was single.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I got married after my first summer doing it, but now I got kids and everything. So one of my small regrets is that I would have pushed a little bit harder, that I would have been a little more committed when I didn't have kids and when I had more time, because it's like now I got kids, and now I see all these single guys popping off with like 50 deals in a month and all that. I'm like,
Sure.
like that's awesome, but at the same time, do I have like, am I willing to like not spend time with my kids to like get that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like I wish I would have pushed harder and kind of.
Can we talk about that for a sec?
Yeah.
Because it's something that it's really important to me, and I think it's going to be important to you down the line, and it already is because you have a family, right?
Yeah.
We're in an industry where you can be even 18 years old. You can come in, learn a very simple skill. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Right.
Knocking on a door, giving a presentation. You could literally memorize a script. Anybody can do that and blurt it off at as many doors as possible, right? And you can be 18 and you can do that, and you can get really good at it, and you can make a ton of money. What I've found, just because I've worked with people everywhere from 16 to 50, right? And you have too, is that no matter what, down the line, you're gonna have to learn certain lessons in your life. Like you're gonna have to, right? You can't get away from these lessons. You can't buy enough courses, you can't go to enough seminars to not learn the lessons that life is just gonna teach you and you can't run away from. So the fact is that the people who you're seeing going out there, closing their 50 deals in a month, whatever, yeah, maybe they'll make like this huge chunk of money or whatever they're learning from that, good, like be grateful for them. But dude, the things that you learn by being a dad, by running a family, you said you just bought a new house, like all those things, you're gonna look back in, it could be 3 months, it could be 3 years, it could be 10 years, and you'd be like, I'm so grateful for where I'm at and that I didn't do X, Y, Z, because you're gonna be in a spot where you wanna be. And then all the other people who you're looking at and being like maybe a little jealous of, trust me, they're gonna have to learn their lessons too. Like we have 18 to 22, 23-year-olds, when they hit 27 or when they're in relationships or whatever it might be, they're gonna have to learn the same lessons you're learning now. And so that's why comparison, one of my favorite people ever is Ed Milet. And he was the first person I heard this from. He said, comparison is the thief of happiness. The thing that's about sales, we have to compare. We have to compare, hey, this person's sales, what are they doing? How can I grow? How can I get better to hit these higher numbers? But the thing is, and people learn this eventually, growth is not limited to closing more deals. It's not, dude. I hear people saying all the time, oh, well, I gotta close 200 deals in a month. I'm like, dude, I mean, come on. Like you can, that's fine. But like, imagine you having a team and, they close a lot of deals per month and you're closing, maybe you're showing an example. I'm at 14 this month, right? We're at the end of February. There's been months where I did 24 or 25 or whatever. But like, if I can keep 14 and I can help other people produce 10, 15, 20 and do that as well, look at that. I'm hitting well over 200 in a month. I'm not doing it just myself. I'm building a team around that. And so because I'm glad you said that. Like in your head, I know you're thinking that right now, but give it 3 or 4 years and those people, they're gonna run into their own issues. And guess what? They're not gonna put it on social media and they're not gonna talk about it, but they're gonna go through their own battles and demons, and you will have surpassed them at that point. You have in other areas of life. So they'll wish, oh dang, I wish I would have learned what Taylor learned when he was however many years old. So I think it's important to keep that in perspective, bro.
Yeah, that's true. And no, I think I need to do better. Sometimes, like you said, we get in this habit of just comparing ourselves, and it's just like Ed Milet says, thief of happiness. Now sometimes that'll affect me. I see these numbers, and like I'm like, man, well, we make excuses, all that. Like I'm like, oh, well, if I was single, if I had this, but it's like I think it's all part of the process, and we all have our own journey. And like you said, I've got my own experiences, I've got my kids and things that I can like teach other people. And same thing with you. I know there's all things that we can share. Maybe when people do get married or when they do have kids, then come to guys like me or whatever you're going through, and then we all share experiences from that. So
believe it or not, you are an example for me in that way. I mean, I've seen you with your kids for a few years. I'm thinking like, dang, Taylor's out here, he's still doing door to door, he's still working in teams, he's working solo, he's running a podcast, and he has kids and his wife. You went through that, your fitness journey, like you're crushing it. That motivates the heck out of me. So you're doing a lot of good stuff, man.
Appreciate that.
Always
trying. But so I want to know, Marshall, like you're a Better Earth, now you're a VP, so how did that go? Like how did you just go from like sales rep, eventually build things up, or what was kind of like your growth path, how you grew into leadership and everything?
Good question. So I started in a different organization that was related to Better Earth. And what happened is in my first 3 months, I made a good chunk of money. I did really well. But it wasn't enough for me. I didn't like it. It wasn't like, sure, I could make money. And it's not that the money wasn't enough. It's just that it didn't matter as much as other things. And I realized when I started training people how awesome it was to take somebody who's brand new, help them feel confident, and say like, hey, I was exactly in your position. Let's take this thing, by the horns and go out and work, right? Let's put the time in, stay out till this time, and people would trust me.
Yeah.
And I felt really good about that. So I started to realize that I felt better about what I was doing when I was serving other people.
Yeah.
I haven't done it perfectly, everybody's got to learn, in leadership.
Yeah.
But I realized that, and so what I did is I just ended up putting time and energy into people over time, and luckily, I don't want to say luckily, but gratefully, the leaders at Better Earth who have created it the way they are now put it together in a way where the more impact you have on somebody in their growth, the more you're able to benefit both structurally and financially and like leadership wise from working with them. So I got a really good deal because I had, without waiting for overrides or without asking necessarily for money and all this stuff, I had put my time into these people, and then the structure benefited that effort.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm grateful that it was put together that way because it's very unique.
Yeah.
Long story short, when I work with a new rep or when I work with somebody who comes into Better Earth, their work directly influences a point system that allows me to get promoted.
Okay.
But I don't have to ask anybody. Nobody has to say, oh, does Marshall deserve this position in the company? Or like, will we give it to him? Like, I'm not waiting for anybody to give me anything anymore.
Okay.
Like, it just kind of, the structure and the compensation structure itself benefits that type of effort.
Okay.
And so then I'm able to rank up to that level.
Okay.
And so by ranking up, I'm then able to, I have a little more influence. I have I can do and access to capital that other people don't at certain points. And so that helps me to grow and scale out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So they just have it set up basically where like you do X, Y, Z, you're automatically in
Yeah.
this position.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has its drawbacks for sure.
Yeah.
In business. We could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
But everything has its drawbacks. It's, for me, the better a company can incentivize building people
Yeah.
for the long term, the better the company and the people in it are going to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like that. That's good in a way because so many companies, like I've heard of situations where reps are like, "Oh, I deserve this. I deserve
Yeah.
give me this promotion, give me this override."
Mhm.
It's just not clear, and then reps like leave over things like that. So,
Yeah,
I think
that
it's-
still happens because at the end of the day, it's sales and you have leadership and you're dealing with people.
Yeah.
Whenever you're dealing with people, you're always going to have the, hey, I deserve this, I deserve that. I've been in that position,
Yeah.
And so you have to, it's just working with people at that point. So the bigger a problem you can solve, the more money you're going to make. And so I think we're solving really big problems here, both in sales and in solar. And so it's
Yeah.
benefiting itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how has it changed now that you're in like a VP position? Do you feel like your, I don't know, kind of daily responsibilities are way different? Are you still like selling on a daily basis, or what does it look like now versus maybe like a year ago when you were just?
Yeah,
like,
good question. So I can do whatever I want, which is both awesome and also a weakness.
Yeah.
And it also says a lot about me being able to maintain where I've been and consistently have well over 100 deals sold every year
Yeah.
and close to, if not over 100 installs each year.
Yeah.
And basically, and this is one of my weaknesses, I struggle sometimes to spend my time in the places that it's most needed. Because nobody's saying, hey, Marshall, by the way, like this is your responsibility since you've got this position now, you got to do this. So you have to kind of learn it and decide how to run it.
Sure.
Basically, I'm running a dealer without having to have the expenses and the setup of a dealer.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, but it also puts me in a position where like, dude, I got to learn things that I never thought I would learn, and I like make mistakes for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a really unique
Yeah.
way of building things.
That's awesome. Well, and something that's really cool that I see you doing is, a lot of other guys that are like in VP positions or VP sales, whatever, at their companies, most guys I see, and this isn't always the case, but for you, I know you're still producing at a really high level. Like you said, you're still going to do 100 installs this year. You did 14 this month. And so some guys at companies, they're like, oh, my VP of sales, they're not even selling anymore. They're just running around doing trainings. Like, how can I listen to this guy? And I know, obviously, I'm sure there's times where you can't sell as much too, but how do you like still produce at a high level and have all these other responsibilities? Do you have any advice on that, or like?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I think that's going to be an age-old question that gets asked forever in sales, and especially like door to door. How do you produce and run a team? Here's the thing. I think they're one and the same.
Okay.
And one thing that I've taught a few of my people who are doing the best in my teams right now is what you have to do in order to like properly lead a team and lead people in your team is not tell them what to do, but do it with them.
Okay.
So, for example, if you want to produce 15 deals, and you tell, and one of your guys comes to you, or one of your reps comes to you and say, hey, I want to produce 15 deals this month. What do I have to do? You say, okay, well, you have to knock this many doors. You got to have this much of a realization or sit rate, right? The number of doors you have to knock have to turn into this number of appointments sat. This number closed goes to this number of closes and installs, etc. This is X number of doors you got to knock, and then you can go out and you can execute that. What you have to do is basically do that for yourself, and then take the people in your organization who are asking you that, who say, hey, how do I step it up a level? How do I produce? How do I do this? Like, okay, I'm gonna take you, and you set up that structure, and you go and you do it with them. You go out, you pull them in a car group, you go with them every single day.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're producing, and they're producing, and boom, you've got yourself like a formula that works.
Nice.
And so that's what I've done with like 5 or 6 people. Now, granted, when I started, I wasn't nearly as good at it as I am now. But what I've found is that there's a lot of things that get in the way of me doing the most important things. The most important things for me right now are, and I write them down every day, which is what we can talk about with goals down, dues paid, something I do every day. The first one is that I write down is I gain influence. That's one thing I do every day. So, all right, I try to do every day. I gain influence. The next one is I produce results. So I gain influence, I produce results, and the final one's my favorite. It's I serve the one. So if I serve one person, or if I help one person in my team, or in the organization, or in the industry, that helps me feel really good about the work I'm doing actually being a good thing for other people. So if I can go out and I can serve the one, that could be anybody. It could be somebody who's not even in the organization. If I can do that every day, and I can gain influence, and I can produce results, that influence, the people who I'm influencing will see the results, and I'll be doing good for other people. And then I know that it's just going to work out in the end. Like, it's a given.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think, well, I don't know, speaking of that, do you think it is important for, say, a VP or, I don't know, people at other companies, do you think it is really important for them to be, like, the highest producer or one of the high producers?
I don't think so, no. Like, and when I say that, by the way, I'm kind of talking to what I believe is probably the majority of the audience who would listen to this, is like managers who have teams of like 8 to 12 people, right? And like you work directly with them. If that's you, do exactly what I just said there. Like find those people who are your best producers, take them out with you every day and produce with them. Right? So, but if we're talking like on scale, 60, 80, 100 people, right? You'd be doing your team a disservice to not delegate and teach the ability to bring that production to your team to like 4 or 5 people. And like we know from like research that it really, you can only effectively manage like 8 to 10 people without some of them feeling neglected or not getting what they need or you going absolutely insane, right? So what it is if you're in a position where you have a lot of people you're responsible for and you're not able to delegate, you're gonna crash and burn. And I've absolutely done that, right? And I found that you have to be able to trust one other person just as much as you trust yourself for every 8 to 10 people in your organization. So imagine this, right? Imagine I have 10 people who I trust a ton. I work directly with those people every day, every week. I train them, I work with them, I produce with them, and then they do the same for their 8 to 10 people. Now you're sitting at like somewhere between 90 and 120-ish people that are being effectively managed because you're effectively managing the people you have to spend your time on. And I've made that mistake, not spending time on people who are producing, who have the right attitude, and instead not trusting myself or not trusting people in my organization to do the things that I've done. I would not be where I am today if people above me, you could say, hadn't trusted me to do things that they couldn't do anymore because they had too much to do. So like, you really have to look at it as in, it's a trust thing. Like, good leadership knows how to delegate. Good leadership knows how to trust other people to do things, and good leadership knows how to communicate too. Like, if you can't do any of those things, you can't run an organization that big. Or if you try, people are going to leave you. They're going to branch off and peace out. Does that make sense? Do you feel like that answered the question?
No, I agree with that. And I think that goes too with just like, you know, a lot of things we do, even if you're just a sales rep. Like, I feel like I had to learn this. Like, I was spending time on just so much account management. I was spending time on so many things that maybe is like, I don't know, HOA documents, re-signing, things like that. And it's like, I feel like the top reps that I've had on this podcast is they're not spending time on like all these tedious things. They're delegating. A lot of them have like assistants. And they've like mastered this thing, like you're saying, getting other people to help manage and run things, because you can't do it all yourself. And so, yeah, I agree with that for sure. And did you have to like learn that? Was there like a time where that like clicked for you? Or, I don't know if you had like experience where you were like trying to do everything yourself, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna try and like.
So I was spending time with brand new reps coming in on the doors. When I had 4 to 5 people who were struggling to run their own teams that I wasn't spending time with. And the only reason that happened is because I had a lot of, I don't want to say had, like, it's never going to happen again. Like, as you grow, you know, you're going to face other challenges. But I had insecurity about producing. I have this part of me that's like attached to producing deals and knocking on doors and thinking, dude, if I don't knock on a door, like, I'm going to fail, or like, I'm not a good leader, which just isn't true. When you break past that boundary and you get into other modes of, oh, this is how I know I'm producing, how I'm successful, that's when you really level up. So I realized that the best thing I could do, and I could help way more than just that brand new rep who I'm knocking doors with, by seeing the people in my organization who want to step up, who are putting the effort in, who believe in it, and then I can gain influence, push more belief, serve the one right there, and then boom, that person is going to it's going to branch out, and they're going to help more people than I ever could knocking on a door. Right? I know we have like Taylor McCarthy, he'll bring like 10 people with him to knock on a door, which I've done to like train people before for fun. But like, that's not an effective way to build your own solar company. It's an effective way to train somebody on like, hey, this is how you do a great presentation and like kill the doors, right? But not to train a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that. So you're saying like, it's almost now at a point where you train, like, say, a manager, and then like, you don't spend time with new reps. You go with like the managers, and then they go with the.
I still
reps,
spend time with new
that.
reps because I love it. Like, to me, to this, I've committed to myself that I'm going to at least like, when I get to certain points, like when I'm making my 20 million in a year or whatever it might be, whatever I may be doing, it's going to include solar, absolutely. But I'm going to be doing other things, right? I still want to commit myself to knocking 5 doors a month. Like, whatever that might be. Like, literally walk up to my neighbor's door, knock on it, say, hey, this is what I do in my business, check it out online. Whatever I do, I still want to knock on doors because it keeps you sharp, man. I know leaders in this industry who who some people will know, talking here, who are in management positions, and they just can't get themselves to go out and knock a door with their people, and their people don't trust them. You know? And like, if somebody says, I don't even think you could properly knock a door and get a lead, I'd be like, all right, bring it on, bro. Because I totally can't, right? And I still want to always be in that position, but I also, I know that my time can be used in some places more effectively. So.
I know, I'm sure you'd agree, like, knocking doors is going to help in everything else you do too. Like, I find myself closing better when I'm also knocking doors at the same time. And, there's going to be times where I'm more closing, times where it's more knocking, but.
And it depends on your organization, right, on how this kind of gets set up. Some people do really well with a strict setter closer model. Some people do well a little bit more loose. I think that it's a combination of both, but the industry is shifting, and we've seen results recently in the last year or two on some models working extremely, extremely well to get people deals and get systems installed and all that. So we have to keep our minds open to recognizing, like, hey, there's always better ways to do things down the line. 5-10 years from now, we might be saying, why the heck did we do that thing that we thought was perfect, Because it wasn't.
Yeah, definitely. Well, something I wanted to ask you, Marshall, and this is something that I'm kind of going through right now, actually. I'm sure when you started, like, you had to build up your office, you had to get guys in. I don't know if Better Earth kind of helped with recruiting. But something that's I'm currently going through right now is we have one of our managers down here in San Diego that they're going to Texas to, like, open up a new office. And so we're going to be, like, I'm going to be running and trying to kind of build back momentum, build back a team, get things rolling again. So if you could go back when you first started your team, when you were really small, or I'm assuming you probably had a small team in the beginning. Like, would you do anything different, or do you have any advice for maybe someone like myself that's like, I'm going to be left with, I don't know, say probably 7, 8 guys and trying to build things back up, recruit and get things set up, or like organizationally. So I don't know, maybe it's like how you run your meetings, stuff you would, I don't know, do different if you could go back. Do you have any advice on that?
Yes. I think you're really going to like this. It came to my mind.
Okay.
So the first thing, because I'll tell just a small story.
Yeah.
So I've, throughout my whole leadership career, I've really struggled with holding standards. It's not one of my strengths.
Yeah.
I have people in my team who are better at holding standards, and so I empower them. You said what, 7, 8 people?
Yeah.
First of all, start with this. Be super, super grateful that you have that small of a group right now, and then be really, really intentional about setting a standard and a mindset for those people. And anybody who doesn't buy into that with you, get them out.
Okay.
Because the thing is that if you had 30 people, you might feel better, like, oh, it's a number. I got 30 people on my team.
Yeah.
Bro, you can have numbers of people, and then your culture can be really suffering, like big time. And then people produce less.
Yeah.
I've seen that over and over. So if I could go back and start with just like 5 people, I would get deep with them on a spiritual level about why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay.
Anything, right? Get people to talk about why they work hard
Yeah.
and why they want to make money and what's important to them there, right? And get them on the same page as you. Get them into this, like, brainwash them, dude, in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Brainwash them on themselves.
Yeah.
Sell your team on themselves, like buying into themselves. And if they can do that and they trust you with that, they're gonna see how much you did for them.
Okay.
Which is build that confidence. And then the thing is, the people who don't buy into that, the people who push back, the people who aren't going in, thank God. Like, get rid of them anyways, right? And then what's gonna happen is that when you have people like that who are bought in, they are going to attract other people who want that. And they're gonna get more excited. They're gonna talk to their buddy at the gym. They're gonna talk to their server. They're gonna talk to their friend from back in college or whatever it might be. And then they'll start to attract people who also want to participate in that. And then you'll start getting recruiting opportunities. You'll get people who are actually like what you want. And one of the biggest, this is me, right? So there's people in my organization who disagree with this, and that's fine. But for me, like, recruiting is definitely a quality over quantity thing. You can have numbers of, let's just say it this way. You could close 60 deals in a month and have almost none of them install.
Yeah.
And you didn't get any deals, right? Or you got very few.
Yeah.
Same with the recruits. Like, build an intentional culture. You've got a small group now, good.
Yeah.
Like, make sure it is what you want it to be.
Okay.
And then you're gonna get people to come in. And like, if you can't get those 7 people to produce, what are you gonna do with 30 people?
Yeah, true.
You know? So be grateful that that's where you're starting, and use that as fuel for making it like super intentional about where you want to go with it.
Yeah.
And then everything else is gonna come from that, dude. You'll feel better, you'll feel more confident, you won't be worried so much about the number of people in your office.
Yeah.
You'll just like have the right people.
Yeah.
And that's way more key than having a lot of people.
Okay, I love that. And what about something I get asked by people is like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but where you have people on the team that they're producing a little bit, because we know how it is. If someone's not producing and they have a bad attitude or whatever, like, get rid of them. Yeah, it's easy. But what about people that they're producing a little bit, but they have a bad attitude? It's almost like you want to let them go, but they're throwing in maybe 2-3 deals a month, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, have you had any experiences with that, or what's your take on that? Do you let those people go, or have a conversation, or?
Yeah, I could sit here and tell you, oh yeah, doesn't matter, like you have to get rid of them or whatever. But the thing is, I think anybody who says that is either a sociopath or like probably lying, and probably has people like that in their team that they're not quite ready to like get rid of or asked to go somewhere else. Here's what I believe.
Okay.
Everybody goes through phases in their life, and there's going to be certain things in your team that you hold again as a standard.
Yeah.
If your standard is produce a certain amount of deals a month, and like don't talk bad about other people, don't bring people down consistently, like bring as much good energy as you can, and produce there, and then let's build together. Like those are pretty loose, right? But to some extent, you can fit a lot of people into that, right? You're gonna have people who just their personality is not like your personality.
Yeah.
And to get rid of those people just because they have different personalities or like ideas is just, it's also a bad idea to just get rid of those people because they don't think like you. A lot of the time, the people in your organization who are producing, but like you don't like their attitude or you don't like this, that, or the other, a lot of the time they just need to be given certain responsibilities that they don't have. Like a lot of the time complaints and negativity are just people's inability to actually communicate the fact that they don't know what they want, and they're like struggling to actually find purpose. Like that's why people, in my opinion, underproduce and don't do well. It's because they don't know why they want, or they don't know what they want, they don't know why they want it, and they don't know how to get it.
Okay.
So if you can go through to those people and you can say, okay, well, hey, this is something you're really good at, and you can empower them. Say, like, hey, this is something that like you are benefiting the team massively here. Talk about the things they're doing really well. They'll keep producing, and as they go down the line, they're going to do the things that they do really well. And if they don't do better, the more responsibility you give them, then that's when you boot them. For sure.
Okay.
So that's kind of my idea on that. And who knows? Maybe I'll tell myself I was wrong, but I feel like that's pretty close to the truth.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Well, what are some examples? Like you talked about standards and like structure a little bit. So for you guys, what's some standards on teams you've been part of? Can you give some examples of like your team standards that you guys have?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily a certain deals per month is like. I don't think it's a standard.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the most useful standard.
Okay.
Have you ever read a book called The One Thing?
I haven't read it, but it's kind of on my list.
It's a good one. Besides, the first two personal development books I ever read were The 10X Rule, Grant Cardone.
Yeah, it's classic.
Great book.
Yeah.
And The One Thing, which I can't remember the guy's last name, or I can't remember the guy's name, which look it up.
Okay.
But there's this awesome statement in there. It says, to determine like what you should do, like what you should focus your energy on. You say, what is the one thing I could do that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So for me, if all I do is set a target of deals per month, maybe realization rate's gonna fail.
True.
If all I do is set a target of deals per month, maybe I'm gonna get producers, but people who like, they're just short-term thinkers, they come into my team for 2-3 months and then they peace out.
Yeah.
Right? Then it doesn't build a sustainable business. If all I do is set a number of deals per month, perhaps there are people who could contribute to the team in a way that's gonna get everybody more deals per month down the road, but I boot them because they didn't get that number of deals per month.
Yeah.
So here's my thought. If I can set a standard of loyalty, communication, and like ethical selling, then as long as I'm not a sucky trainer, as long as I can train somebody, I know how to properly say, hey, this is good script, this is how you go out on the doors, spend this time, and I can get them to an office at a certain time and 2 meetings at certain times. As long as I can provide that structure and they're loyal, they're ethical, and they communicate, I feel pretty good that I'm gonna have like a pretty darn well-rounded team that's gonna grow over time. And so for me, those standards are a lot more like personality based. And sometimes there are times where I have had people who I keep around too long because I see those things in them, and I'm slowly learning how to see those things sooner and to let those people go sooner. But I believe, and I think that my numbers and the results I've had over time speak for themselves, that investing in your people and believing in them and like empowering them is much more useful than just giving them a target to hit.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Okay. Well, yeah, I agree. Just like I look back at my first year in solar, if my results were based off the deals I was doing, I probably would have been kicked off of like most solar teams.
Yeah, and then we wouldn't have Taylor here with an awesome podcast running a team, and then whoever fired you, like who knows what they'd be doing, you know?
They'd be regretting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I think there's some guys that it takes time. Some guys will pick it up quick. Some guys like me, they're gonna take longer, and you never know. Like the guys that don't pick it up quick, they could be your top producers maybe a year from now. So I like that. It's a good way to measure it for sure. And what about like meetings on teams you've been a part of? I know some people are like, oh, we got to do daily teams. We got to like keep it super structured, get our guys out there.
Yeah.
A lot of bigger companies are like, oh, let's do 1 or 2 meetings a week. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that? What have you guys done?
So I've done it all.
Okay.
And so one of the things now, it's interesting because a lot of things I'm going to say here relate strictly to Better Earth.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of organizations that couldn't do this.
Yeah.
Because like it just wouldn't work for them.
Okay.
Right? So a little plug for Better Earth there, but either way, what I've found has been more effective is that the leaders that I have who are building teams and recruiting and working, right? I'm going to say, hey, you got to have daily meetings in whatever capacity works for you.
Okay.
You can have, if everybody's out traveling, like get on a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Right? If everybody is all in that same area, you're doing a blitz, you're in an Airbnb for 10, 15 days, you're having daily meetings every morning.
Yeah.
Give me 2 days a week.
Okay.
Give me 1 day where I have with all you specific leaders and we get together and we talk about important things about culture, team, and I pump you up. And then give me 1 day a week where we all come together, like everybody, you and all your teams and me, and we talk about what's working. We go over targets. We say, hey, this is how many deals we've hit. Hey, this is a realization rate. Here's what we can do better. Hey, here's this cool announcement. Hey, here's this thing we want to do. Hey, we're going to do this event. And then you kind of run it. And you run your own show to there. And then all I ask is that you come to me and we talk about what's working and what's not, and you adjust it from there.
Okay.
Because the thing is, dude, I've just seen it over and over and over again. Whenever you come and you have an every single day meeting, dude, you build momentum, you crush it for a while, and then there's always 1 or 2 or 3 people that screw it up.
Yeah.
Right? They come in and they say, I don't want to meet every day, or I don't have to meet every day, or I don't want to drive here, or I don't want to drive there. And maybe they're good producers.
Yeah.
And then people start to listen to them. And you're like, oh no, like it's screwed up. So what I've found is that, you have to hold some standards. I find it really good that I have different personalities in my team. And they tend to attract and recruit the people who work well with their personality and their, hey, we have meetings at this time, and this time. And then there's this one big standard that we keep all together. Okay. And then people kind of run their own things. And that scales. That scales, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because they're going to be able to do it in a way that works for them and that gets them results. If they get those results, they'll grow. They'll continue to do those things that get them the results. But
okay. So
you're
saying you tell your guys run 2 meetings to happen for sure, and then the rest is just gonna fill in the blank.
The rest is fill in the blank for the leaders.
Okay.
So I don't say just do whatever you want. I say, listen, this person here, you're in charge of this group. This person's in charge of this group.
Yeah.
You run this thing the way that you're seeing it fit. Because the way we have a lot of guys who live in a house together,
right.
or a lot of guys who will be in a certain geographic area,
Okay.
and like maybe. And this is my opinion, maybe it really isn't that effective to have somebody drive an hour and a half every day to a meeting and lose 3 hours, right, of work.
Yeah.
But they should definitely be willing to do it. And they should definitely do it at least like twice a week, once, twice a week, right? We have I'll shout him out, his name's Jaleel in Florida. He lives an hour and a half away from our office in Tampa.
Wow.
He drives there every day. He's a beast.
Wow.
He crushes it. He gets deals. He's a committed guy. Here's the
That's
thing: Jaleel's not doing well because he drives an hour and a half every day. Yeah. Jaleel's doing well because he communicates. He's ethical, and he's an honest, hard worker.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's it. Right?
Yeah.
So if you hold too strict to specific things and you just have to hold on to those, like this is the only thing that will get us where we want to go, the bigger you get or the more you grow, you're going to grow out of those things. You're going to have to shift them.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to do that or you're going to stay small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, it's true. I've seen, some guys like throw a fit about daily meetings,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I know a lot of guys going a ton with them. So yeah, and I'm asking all these things because it's like stuff I'm going through in real time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, dude. I would, if it's just the circumstance you're telling me about, you guys
Yeah.
need to have daily meetings for sure.
Okay.
When those guys are producing their 10, 15 a month, and they've recruited 3 or 4 people, and
Yes.
it's like, okay, well, hey, what's working for you? Like, of course, it's going to work to meet every day. Like, you got to scale it up, but to some extent, you're going to have that people who push back,
Yeah.
right? And so you do have to be able to be flexible.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and when guys push back, do you, I don't know, do you let them kind of butt heads with you, or do you let them kind of run off, or? Because it's tough, like you were saying, if two, 3 guys don't want to, and then the rest of the team's like, oh, well, how come they're not coming to meetings? And
Yeah, I know.
it's like,
Yeah,
it's
that always happens, right?
Yeah.
It's just such a pain. Like, what I would say is that, and I'm not necessarily the most qualified person to answer this question, but given the experiences I have had, people are usually pushing back against like coming to meetings for one of 2 reasons. One, they have some kind of financial like issue that's keeping them little money, or they can't make it to a meeting because they have to do this, that, or the other, or they're relying on somebody else and they don't like that, right? Or 2, they are trying to be effective. They're like, I want to use my time effectively, and I don't believe that this use of my time is effective. That's on you as a leader. You've got to make your meetings more effective. You got to make your meetings more valuable.
Okay.
If people aren't willing to show up to them, look at yourself.
Yeah.
If people aren't willing to show up to them and they're just complainers and they have other issues, like you're gonna have to address that. They might not be a good fit for your team.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I think because I've been that rep where I've been with some companies where it's like the manager just gave the exact same training every single day, and like, so I was like, why am I coming to this meeting? We're just gonna like go over a number real quick, do like the exact same role play situation every day. So like I get that. So
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that.
There definitely is, dude. So you got to make your meetings more effective, but you don't want to put your leaders or yourself, for example, you don't want to feel like, oh God, I have to come up with this elaborate training here today, and it takes you an hour and a half to put together it's just not going to be effective there either. So to have a proper meeting, you have to have people together, hype up, go over targets and wins, train together there on something useful that you can take out that day, and then measure those results and go from there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's good stuff. And so I want to transition a little bit as we start to wrap up a little bit here, Marshall. And so 2 things. First, I want to ask your opinion. Like, we all know in California, we're getting closer to net metering 3.0, which everyone that listens to the podcast should know about that by now, what's going on in California. If not, come to a blitz with us. We got the modern day gold rush going on. So
hit us up.
Hook you up some deals out here. But so what are you guys doing as a company to kind of prepare for that, and what's just your thoughts around what's happening? Is the world ending, or what do we got going on when all this stuff changes?
Yeah, I'll go to Warren Buffett. I'm going to paraphrase.
Okay.
When people are greedy, be fearful. When everybody's fearful, be greedy. Everybody's fearful right now.
Yeah.
So we're being greedy, and without going into details, and by greedy I don't mean negative, like we're trying to steal people's money and stuff, but the fact is this: in California, and in solar in general, it's easy to make a lot of money and not even have to be that good of a sales rep. You could be a mediocre salesperson and make a killing in solar.
Yeah.
And so then that boosts the ego of that person, when in reality, like they probably weren't that great of a salesperson anyways, they just had a great product.
Yeah.
So solar's a great product.
Yeah.
As the product changes, and you can't just always say, hey, we're going to cut your bill in half, it's a little bit more complex than that.
Yeah.
The fakers and the people who are mediocre are going to go elsewhere. And that's happening right now. Now, I'm not saying everybody who goes out of California is mediocre. I'm just saying in general, in our industry, the type of salesperson that's going to be necessary to sell solar in the future is going to have to be a lot better.
Sure.
So we're going to need way better salespeople and way better of an expectation of our salespeople, and both ethically and their knowledge and their ability to like actually sell a deal that goes to install. 43% realization rate is the industry average, by the way. That's despicable.
Yeah.
You know who you are. And I digress. Going back to the point, net metering is going to change the landscape. Batteries are going to become crucial. companies and organizations, installers alike, that don't have the volume to impress battery companies, the ones that actually matter and are working, are not going to be able to successfully run a business. They'll go out of business. Their sales reps will go elsewhere, whether it's to a different state or to different companies in California. And so if you want to make a killing in a career in California, you're going to have to be with a company that has good connections with reputable battery companies, has actual good training, and people in their company who have shown over time that they can sell product and do it well, and have a referral business, etc. And companies that like have customer service systems. Now, I'm not saying they always work perfectly, right? Better Earth is awesome. We continue to get better. But like if you're selling batteries and you've got all this complex equipment at somebody's house and it goes kaput and they don't know how to deal with it, and like maybe the manufacturers are super busy and they're relying on actual companies to service these guys, and your customers have nowhere to go, they're going to hate the product, they're not going to like you, they're not going to refer you, and then there's going to be more people who don't like solar down the road. So like we got to have good salespeople. So you got to be able to get good training, have a battery connection, and know that the company you're working with has a reputation that people can like actually count on. So I feel really good about that with Better Earth here, but we're opening in a ton of markets this year. So I'm going to be going, I'm going to Florida this week, Arizona, Texas. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. And I'm just waiting for some, idiot rep to come around and say, no, you don't need a battery. Like, we're still going to cut your bill in half.
So, it's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's like, it's true. You got to be prepared. You got to have the training. And you got to educate yourself on the technology and just like selling on more than just savings. Because especially in California, I think more than any other market, I think there's more mediocre sales reps in California, I would say, compared to
so much.
Like, you cut people's bills in half, and it's so easy. Just like you could just literally show up, say, "Hey, we're gonna cut your bill in half," and that's what a lot of these people do, and they get sales like that.
It's true.
Where now it's like, you gotta do more than that. Like you're saying, you gotta build value. You gotta explain why it's important to own versus rent, and all these other
kinds of stuff. So. Though I will say, just a quick plug for the leasing and PPA side of things. As interest rates go up, and the economy changes, leases are going to become actually like a very viable option for people to go solar, to start replacing loans. Not completely, right? But it's gonna make a comeback. PPAs and leases are gonna make a comeback. So we're plugged in there. We've got the connections to make that happen as well. So that's part of the industry.
That's a good point. Well, cool. And then just to kind of start wrapping up here, Marshall, I know one of your big mantras, whatever you call it, is goals down, dues paid. And so I know that's like, everyone's shouting that out on Instagram these days, and I think you're creating like a movement around this whole thing.
I'm going to do better over the next several months, but
so I've been seeing it and love it. So tell me, where did this come from, and what's like your whole idea, and where did all this goal down, dues paid come from?
I will keep it simple. I started putting it on social media when I was having a really tough time. My team had imploded. I'd lost a lot of money. I was in a tough space, like mentally. Things were just not going super well. I wasn't getting the support I needed. And so I realized, I gotta support myself. Nobody's gonna come save me. I've always been into working out. I've built that habit over years, and I wake up and I get it done. I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm like a robot, and I'm so grateful for that, because it builds momentum in everything else I do. Dues paid is about doing the things that are necessary to buy you your freedom, really, right? And I mean freedom in a lot of ways. If you don't exercise, you aren't healthy, you eat like crap, years and years down the road, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for that in your health, right? If you don't communicate well with people, if you don't fulfill your responsibilities, everything catches up. I guess you could call it karma of some sorts. So dues paid is not just about going and working out really hard. It's a big part of it. It's much more about, okay, what are the things that I got to do every day that I know are going to bring me success, that sometimes are hard to do, but I know are necessary. And so you do those things anyways. You do it anyways. And so I actually wrote down a few tips for, I get asked a lot, like, about discipline, right? Like, how do I have discipline? Like, you can't have it. You got to earn it, and you got to decide to earn it, and you got to decide to pay the price of the pain and the discomfort that will come with it. But I'm going to tell you, and comes from a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Have you heard of it?
I love that.
Yeah.
First sales books there.
Awesome book. And I love this line in there, and I'm going to paraphrase again, but it basically says, anything that you do repeatedly becomes easier. Things that are easy are a pleasure to perform. It's ringing any bells? And if it is a pleasure to perform, it is in man's nature to perform it often. Okay? So it's not that the things that you want to do get easier, it's that you get better. And I know it's a very common phrase, but it's so true. So there's 3 things I've found that help you to do things that are hard until they get easy, and then you like them more, and then you keep doing them.
Yeah.
Right? So one of them is accountability. This could be a person that you're accountable to, or it can be, I call it's a post accountability. When I was in this tough time, I was like, I had this temptation, like, I'm so tired, like, I don't want to work out anymore, I don't want to do anything, I'm struggling. And I was like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look back at myself here in 3 or 4 years, and I'm going to say, I doubled down and I did the things that kept me healthy, because that's way more important than my money.
Sure.
And so I posted on Instagram, and I said, it's like dues paid. It was just dues paid at first. It's like, I'm going to pay these dues, I'm going to do it because I know it counts, and no matter what happens career-wise, I'm going to make it. So that was dues paid first, and that's how that developed. And that was a post accountability. I put it on Instagram, and then people started saying, hey, you've been doing this consistently, like, way to go, man. And then I would think, oh, geez, I can't stop now, right? So a post, you can keep yourself accountable with a post on social media. The next one is an exact wake-up time every single day. If you do not have an exact time you wake up every single day, no matter what, I can guess 20 other things about your life, right? Set a time when you wake up at that same time every day. It doesn't have to be 5:45 a.m.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 4, right? Like Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
It could literally be 7:30 a.m.
Yeah.
But like, you got to do it consistently. If you do that, it's just going to open up a world of possibilities for you. So that's the second one. And the third one is something called the 5-second rule, which is when you know there's something that you need to do that you're avoiding, and you're scrolling on social media, and you're like, oh gosh, I got to do this, I got to knock a door, I got to get out of my car, knock this door, or I got to call this rep, or I got to do this, and you don't want to do it. Recognize that, and then literally hold your hand up in front of you or at your side or something like this, and just count down in your head, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do it. You don't have to do it perfectly, but you just got to go and do it.
Yeah.
And so that's super key. I found that to be very, very, very helpful, and I'll do that to help me do all kinds of things that I don't want to do, that I know I need to do.
Yeah.
So those are some really good ways to be accountable. And then the goals down came from me recognizing that, like, my goals have changed over time. And I'm not the same person. Like, life changes, things change. Like, you're not going to have the same goals your whole life.
Yeah.
You'll have similar, like, values. Your values are going to stay the same, hopefully, in some ways.
Yeah.
But, like, your goals and how you're going to fulfill those values in your life, it's going to change.
Sure.
Like, for me, at some points, I would write down, like, oh, I want this exact Porsche car. I would, like, write it down. And then I realized, like, dude, this is not helping me. Like, I don't care about the car. I want to be able to go where I want, when I want, with who I want, whenever I want.
It's the dream.
Right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll write that down.
Okay.
Right? Or I was writing down, like, I'm going to make $1 million in commissions this year.
Yeah.
But instead of that, I wrote down everybody in my team makes $250K plus. And if they do that, I'm making way more than $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, that's bigger to me, and it connects more with my values. So I think there's this lie, and it comes from a lot of things, but there's this lie that you got to know exactly what you want all the time right now, and it's going to stay the same forever.
Yeah.
And then your life changes, and things change, and you hit these certain points, and then it changes, and you think, oh no, like, I don't know what to do anymore. When, dude, if you just recognize that's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like, everybody listening to this right now that thinks maybe you're a 24-year-old running a dealer and you just think you're on top of the world, like, give it 4 or 5 years, man. Like, things are going to change, and you're going to be like, what is going on? I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if you can accept that that's going to happen, be like, okay, cool. How do I hit the nail on the head and still go out and do important things and grow myself? That's what Goals Down is about. You write down the things that you want, and you write those down every day, and you write down your values. Keep it simple, 5 to 8 things, and then those are going to change, but, like, you're going to get a lot more clear on what you want as things go on.
Yeah.
So that's what that's about, man. You write those goals down every day, and you pay your dues. Like, you're not going to fail. You're going to find opportunity, and you're going to win.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I love that. And yeah, it's something I used to do. I need to get back in the habit, but Yeah, I don't know if you ever got like the Grant Cardone like 10x journals or whatever.
Yeah.
Where he says
I need to get more.
It's like write them down.
Yeah.
That's when I was doing it, super consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. It helps you focus in on things, and I think you think of more things as you do it.
You do. Get back into it, man.
Yeah, I need to.
And then post it's on Instagram. Just do @goalsdownduespaid
Yeah.
or hashtag it or something.
Okay.
And then we'll keep growing that. I mean, I didn't come up with the idea of paying your dues every day. Of course not, right? I'm just putting them together in a way that's worked for me. So.
Yeah, love it. So yeah, everyone listen to this podcast. Go do that. That's the challenge we got on the podcast for you. Go write your goals down. Pay your dues today, whatever that may be. And
Yeah.
Tag what is it? @goals.
Just goals down dues paid on
Goals down,
Instagram. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
There's we're working on a Twitter and a TikTok and stuff right now, but it's mainly on Instagram right now. And I got some cool things coming in the works
Yeah.
with a few other guys in the industry who do like personal development, psychology, therapy, like to help sales reps do better. And we're gonna be putting together some really cool like stuff and resources for people to grow. So
great.
keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Well, it's been awesome having you on the podcast, Marshall, and I'm sure you've heard this, but it's like you can pay the dues now and pay that price, or you can pay the dues, which comes in the forms of regret probably later by not paying your dues right now, right? And so, like, I think we could all agree it's much more worth it to pay the dues now to suffer the price of, discipline now versus suffer the price of regret later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Couldn't put it better.
yeah. Just backing up what you said.
Yeah. It's a universal principle, I think.
Yeah. 100%. And so just to wrap up, so I know we already shouted out the Goals Down News page, but if people want to connect with you more, reach out, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram, though thank goodness I've quelled my addiction to social media so much over the last several months, which I'm grateful for. But Instagram, it's just M_Tuten, Tuten.
Okay.
And you can find me there. And I'm working on a YouTube and things like that, but it's just little developments. Instagram would be the place. I won't get my phone number on here because I already have 2,400 unread texts on my phone.
Not going to be like Michael O'Donnell.
No way. I'm sure it's probably like a community number, right?
Yeah.
I should get one of those. I really appreciate all the people who have been on here. I feel honored to be having this discussion, and I'm excited to have more of these because I know I have a lot to offer to the industry, and I'm going to continue to like push that out because I know people want it.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see what you come out with next. I've learned a ton from you, Marshall, so we appreciate you, sharing and being a person of value and spreading abundance. And so just to wrap up, do you have any, final words of advice or anything else you wish you maybe would have learned sooner? Any final words of wisdom you'd have for our Solarpreneur audience here?
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as I can. But again, I would say be careful who you compare yourself to on a financial standpoint.
Okay.
I've learned that just because somebody has money, they're making money, doesn't mean that they're actually providing the value that would earn them that money. And I've done that myself.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I haven't been in that position, but I recognize when that's happened. So just know making your money is awesome and do it. Just remember that a lot of the time, the money, it's only going to get you so far. And when you have the impact and influence and you serve people, you're just going to be a lot happier. So find ways to do that, and then find an opportunity and a structure that will allow you to get the financial benefit from doing those things, and then that's when you're really going to shoot off. That's what I found.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
100%. Like we were talking about, it's especially in California, there's a lot of people that can make money, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they're, progressing in all other areas. So
Yeah.
super important. So, Marshall, we appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we'll have you on in the future. It's been awesome. So, guys, go shoot Marshall a follow. Let him know you appreciated him coming on the podcast. Remember, get your goals down, get your dues paid, keep crushing it. And with that, we'll peace out right here.
Yes.
Thanks again.
And as I always say, take it to the bank.
Let's go. Okay.